When somebody is telling you that we need to keep abortion safe, legal, and rare, it means they know it's bad. So finish the deal by telling them how life is good. And offer a way of extending the blessings of liberty to those who are born poor, to the young teenage mother. Extend to her not only help and love, but also the kind of support that will enable her to be a capable parent and for that child to grow up in a world that is big and nurturing and wonderful. As conservatives, let us realize that the whole area and the issue of social justice is something that we ought to embrace. We ought to be going into poor neighborhoods and saying, yes, we believe in freedom. I think you've had enough of a welfare state that treated you as if you were incapable. Let us now have a dignity agenda that sets you free, that celebrates who you can be and encourages you. It's tougher going into the schools, isn't it? Have you ever been to one of those school meetings where they make you sit in the chairs that are this tall? You know, but that may be the most interesting challenge of all. I don't think teachers generally get into the business to brainwash kids. They get into the business because they want to teach them. And we've got to figure out ways to make ourselves deeply involved. We've managed to do it a bit in our local elementary school. But everywhere you go, realize that no effort is in vain. It may take time. It may be frustrating. You may want to pound your head against the wall, but don't. Help is on the way. You provide help. Let me just finally close with a couple of observations about politics. The first is that, again, this is a time that's made for us. This is our time. This is a country hungry for that spirit of September 12th, and you do not get it from a government that doesn't trust people and doesn't believe in people. You get it from a government that inspires and encourages. Secondly, let us realize that the world is looking to us as Americans once again to demonstrate that we have that special ability to rise above hardship and create glory. That is something we can do, and we must do it, and we will. And finally, all the tempests in politics, this too shall pass. Let us always keep our eye on that future. Freedom. Build freedom. We can go through the political agenda some other time. So as you talk about making the most of every day, begin with a celebration and a whisper of thanks that you're alive. I know I do. Yeah, it is the peculiar thing about having cancer. Cancer is, you think, what an idiot. He says cancer is a blessing. Well, it is in this sense. When you walk through the valley of the shadow of death and you realize that maybe there's a sunny plain on the other side, that's pretty cool. When you also realize that the worst that can happen if you die is you get reunited with old friends, that's not a bad deal. And when you also realize, by the way, the other thing is facing this, you just stop tolerating BS. It's great. What are you going to do, give me cancer? We got to realize that, again, I don't want you to be down by what you hear and read and see because a lot of it's just baloney. This is a country where people still feel satisfied, and yet there is, we're being held down. We're being held down by a government that has too many regulations and too many laws. We're being held down by a government that's taxing too much and believing too little. All of these, we can snip these bonds, but we have to, again, build it together as part of an agenda to lift people up and to give them ambition. Replace envy with ambition. Ambition is a good thing if it's in service to that goal. And the goal of the Shining City on the Hill is once again to rekindle in the American heart and soul the humility of realizing that we're one nation under God. And as servants of God, there's nothing we can't do as long as we do it together. And that's the end of my sermon. I think we're in the middle of a political transition because nobody's quite understanding that we have to start moving toward an agenda in American politics that really does appeal to the fact in a big, booming, changing world, we've got to get back in the game. This is a game we created. We've got to get back in the game, and we can do it. You also have to realize that most of the people who are opposing us on this stuff know that what they're trying to promote is not something people want. They're scared. Give encouragement to people who agree with us and stand up and do it. And you know what? Wherever you can, smile. It drives them nuts. It does. It drives them nuts because they think you're mad and angry all the time. They think they can get you because they can always be annoying. But if you got the ability to say, I'm sorry, I'm doing this because I love it. Don't you? You can win. I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank the public servants who are here. I know I've said some sort of crude things about politics generally, but I believe that politics is an honorable profession. And if we don't like what we see in politicians, then we fix it because we're the ones who make it honorable. Do not say to politicians, them and us, because it's not. Government of, by, and for the people. They are us. They're our friends. They're our neighbors. There are people who get into this business understanding that they're going to get annoying phone calls all the time. Everybody's going to bellyache it to them about everything under the sun. The business of running for president, and by the way, I admire John McCain and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton because it is grueling and awful. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it's draining. We can restore a sense of honor by standing up. America's on our side. They just want to hear our voice. You know, it's a funny thing. Sometimes when you talk about your faith, you see people perk up and they think, wow, I can do that too. You got to realize that every time, if you're getting on these email lists or you're sending notes around or you're talking to people about these issues, just a little tiny bit of encouragement. What does encouragement mean? It means to give courage. Let's give courage to one another. This fight is too important to win. I mean, too important to lose. Whew. So let's just win it. Final observation. I will close with a joke that I love to tell because, A, I only know one joke. And B, it's classic because it sort of captures the nature of politics. If you can't laugh at politics, you can't laugh at anything. So this is a story about my two favorite political figures, at least when they were in tandem. It was Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich. I mean, Bill's loosey and Newt's trying to kick the football. But anyway, Bill and Newt are driving down the road one day. Well, whammo, they get blindsided by a pickup truck, they die, and they go to heaven. They run into St. Peter. And of course, what do they start doing? They start bargaining. St. Peter, please, 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 we're young, we're visionary, we got really long speeches we want to give. Let us go back. And St. Peter says, well, I got, if that's what you want, I got good news and bad news. Can you imagine somebody trying to talk their way out of heaven? But anyway, good news and bad news. Bad news is, a terrible accident, burned beyond recognition. But the good news is, believe it or not, even though this is heaven, we got an accounting department and they messed up. You're not supposed to be here for 6 more weeks. Bill goes, really? He says, so you can go back as anything else you like. Bill goes, wow, this is heaven. I want to be a stud. Wish is granted. Newt looks over at the vacant space and discusses, I want to be an eagle. His wish is granted too. 6 months later, Gabriel's dispatched to pick up the brothers. Newt's easy to find. He's bobbing over the Grand Canyon, delivering lectures about great books. Bill's more difficult to locate, however, because he's on a snow tire in the Sierra Nevada. As our elected officials in attendance will tell you, in politics, the unexpected is always the rule rather than the exception. So for those who think that this is going to be a bad year for conservatism, let us make this a time where people wake up in November surprised and perhaps even secretly happy. Thank you and God bless.